What is happening, Post Shifters? Welcome back to another episode of the Post Shift Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Shawn Soole. Getting back into the rhythm of doing podcasts, I'm really carving out time and making sure that I'm carving out time for myself to do this because I really do enjoy connecting with people. I did Mr. Lion himself yesterday's live stream. His episode will be up this week. Today, we're doing a little bit of a Vancouver local flair. I met James. Randomly, I was a big follower of his, but then when I moved to Vancouver, he's like, hey, I think it was 2 weeks after I stayed. He's like, do you want to do a Mates on Crates, which we're going to get into? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then he's asking me all my favorite places in Vancouver to go. And I visit Vancouver, but I'd only lived there for 2 weeks. And I literally been living in the same 2 blocks, even after 4.5 months. I'm still living in the 2.5 blocks that I exist in Chinatown so that I can get my work done and then come home. So without further ado, actually, I got to push one more button, see if this is going to work today. Doesn't seem like it's going to work today, so we're going to figure this out. Without further ado, James Grass from Chef's Favorite. How are you, sir?
G'day. I'm well. How are you?
Good. It's my turn to interview you and put you on the spot.
This is so exciting. I'm not. It's not very often I'm on the other side of the.
Have you done a podcast before?
This is actually my first proper podcast. Yeah.
I'll be gentle. That's always surprising. Like when I started going through my list of people that I want to have on the show again, I wanted to make sure that I connected with people that I looked up to and respected as always, like people who I see as a peer in the industry. And what you've done is really creative because it's really great because I know you've got a really great team behind you. Yes. Doing it. And I think I ever mentioned it when we did Mates on Crates. You were like, I was like, fuck, I wish I had people like that I could have in my corner because it is really tough being a one-man show at times. So
it really is. Yeah.
So for everybody out there, I'm a big comic book fan. As you can see from behind me, I got Marvel and DC first editions all framed up. What's your origin story? How'd you get into the industry?
The original moment in the industry was working at Hungry Jack's in Australia. You might remember Hungry Jack's.
Yeah.
For our North American brethren, it's an offshoot of Burger King in Australia. And I think I was about 13. As soon as I could legally work, I was working. Mm-hmm. So 13 and 9 months, $5.20 an hour on a casual rate, flipping those frozen beef patties into the broiler. Yeah. And that was where it started. And then I got a promotion not a promotion. I got bumped up from casual to part-time, and they said, we're going to guarantee you 9 hours a week. But we're going to pay you $4.35 an hour, down from $5.20. And I thought, hey, that's a great deal. So anyways, that was my first sort of foray into hospitality, and then worked in coffee shops and all that kind of stuff in Australia as a kid going to school. And I had a great mentor at my first bar job called Gus Armstrong. And he was like, get out of the coffee shop, come work for me, and taught me how to pour drinks, and started working for him. And then, worked in hospitality all the way through university, and finally moved to Vancouver in 2007.
What were you studying in university? What was your big boy job going to be?
So for those of you that are familiar with Entourage, I wanted to be Ari Gold. So nice. I was doing a public relations and law degree with an eye to one day be an agent for sports and movie stars.
That's very cool.
Yeah, the public relations degree came very easily. The law degree turns out like you need to focus for long periods of time and study. And 20 years later, I discovered that I had ADHD, to the surprise of nobody in my family, and made a lot of sense why I couldn't focus at this law classes for 3 hours. So that was university for me, and I worked at a great cafe, restaurant group in Canberra called Bellucci's, where I kind of got the bug of hospitality, and I was a really shitty bartender, and they moved me onto the front of house and being a host and running the floor, and that felt nice and natural and normal for me. So that was kind of where it all kicked off in Australia.
Because usually when people say they moved to Canada, it's usually around 2012 for the Olympics. What made you move? Because you would have moved here about a year after I did. What made you make the move to Canada?
Yeah, 2007. My uncle, who's my godfather, was getting married to a woman my aunt Cheryl, who was a pretty big time player in the public relations scene in Vancouver. Mum's a Canadian, so I had the dual citizenship, and they were getting married 3 months after I graduated. So I felt like there was a lot of things lining up and giving me the clue, like, hey, if you're gonna ever move to Vancouver, now's the time. So I thought, I already had a ticket paid for to go to the wedding. So I thought, well, what if I just went for 12 months and see if I can stick it out? I'd been back and forth as a kid to Canada numerous times visiting my family, and just always felt really at home in Canada. So it was a bit of a calling, I guess you could say. And that was what brought me out here. And then, I thought if I could hack it for 1 year, maybe I could stick it out till the Olympics, which I thought would be a really amazing experience. And here I am 18 years later. Can't get rid of me.
So chef's favorites, obviously your big foundation for a lot of the stuff you do. Walk everybody through about what chef's favorite does or means to.
So after I moved to Vancouver, I worked for the Vancouver Club for 11 and a half years. And my role there sort of evolved from front of house, running the fine dining room, into the event side of it and doing member experiences. And then in 2018, I decided that it was time to become, a private club consultant because there was opportunities in Australia. So that kicked off and was going well. And then we had that fancy event called COVID. And it shut down our industry. And so I was spinning my wheels trying to figure out how I could stay relevant in hospitality if I didn't own my own restaurant, own bar, any of that kind of stuff. And, my marketing was all experiential. So we would throw parties or events for our clients, and we would get new clients because they would come to our client events, so on and so forth. So during COVID, I realized that a lot of what we did didn't translate online. I wasn't particularly savvy on the digital space. So as a way to keep telling the story of hospitality, I thought maybe it's not my story that I tell, it's the chefs. And the reason for that was I was, reading in, Instagram and whatever, that all these restaurants and bars and some of my favorite people that own them were closing. And it was just names on a list on, the different local hospitality media. And I just felt like the individuals who owned those venues weren't being represented, that we were just seeing a name on a list, but there's people that have poured their life savings into it, years of passion and hard work that's just gone. And we don't even know who was behind it. So I thought that would be a way for me to tell somebody else's story whilst remaining relevant, so that once the world reopened, that, people would say, oh, that guy must be a hospitality consultant, or he's involved in the industry. And so that was the intention, was that we would tell the stories of the chefs and their favorite things as a way to help support the industry. As well as anybody, Shawn, the chefs that we know and love, some can be a little bit hard to deal with. Some can be a little bit awkward. They don't love the limelight. But as a front of house guy, I can speak chef. And so I thought that this would be a good opportunity for us to make them comfortable by asking them about their favorite things. And I found that when I spoke with chefs about their favorite things, they would light up and they were fun, candid. And so Chef's Favorite was born as a way to tell their story. And then the sidecar to it was, we would ask them about their favorite places in the city. And that would be a way to shine a light on their peers and their favorites and start building that community of hospitality through direct reference from the industry.
So when you started off with the Chef's Favorite style thing, was it mainly written word, or were you doing videos back then, or was it mainly like questionnaires and written word?
No, the original concept was long form YouTube, actually.
Oh.
It was always video driven. So we invested, I partnered up with a pal of mine, Jason Vaughan, who had made videos and explained sort of what I wanted to do. And he stitched it together, and we filmed 8 episodes of like a long form, about 20, 25 minutes. They're still on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
Beautifully shot, really nicely edited, but lengthy. And so we did those 8 episodes. It was very expensive to produce. And it didn't really translate onto Instagram as much as we'd hoped. The YouTube got a few hits and, a few hundred followers. And, like I said, very proud of what we did, but it didn't hit out of the gate. And so, that was where the series started, was long form. And we'll get back to that eventually too.
Yeah. So when how did the evolution of Mates on Crates come about and going that short form Instagram? Like we're getting geeky media stuff. So if people are
Yeah.
tuning in and you're usually expecting me to be talking about cocktails and specs, too bad. I'm going to nerd out about media today. But how did you do that evolution to the short form Instagram?
So we started Chef's Favorite in 2021. We filmed our first slate of the full length episodes in 2022. Or we did our first run at it was in 2022. The full series came in 2023. And then at the end of 2023, I went back to Australia to visit my parents in Noosa. Hi, Mum. Hi, Dad. And my wife and I were in the pool. And my wife's a fabulous business person in her own right. And so we spent a lot of time talking, business and hospitality. We were in the pool chatting about how do we take Chef's Favorite to the next level? How do we make it cheaper, more efficient, faster, more impactful, and shorter? And so we were distilling, trying to take the best parts of the long form and how do we cram it into 90 seconds? And I posed the question out loud, where do the best conversations in hospitality happen? And answered my own question with, well, they happen on a milk crate out the back with a cigarette and a coffee. Because that's where the gossip is. Everyone's talking about, hey, did you hear so-and-so's opening a new spot, or so-and-so got fired from that spot and they're going to this place. So you get to hear all the juice and all the gossip, and anybody that's worked in hospitality knows that you can sit on a milk crate and have a chat with somebody, you'll learn something every time. So we started laughing and said, we should call it Mates on Crates, haha. And then it kind of stuck, and we decided to run with it. So yeah, Mates on Crates now, I think we've filmed almost 140 episodes. And
wow.
120. Yeah.
And you release them once a week, yeah?
Twice a week.
Twice a week, wow.
We at one point last year, we were flooding the market. We were doing 3 times a week, which almost broke my production team.
Yeah.
We film on Thursdays, and at that time we were filming like 7 or 8 episodes a day. And it was a push. So we've dialed it back, and I think we're back to 5 episodes that we film every Thursday and releasing every Thursday and Sunday.
So I'm curious because I think people always get caught up in the, oh, well, I can't do quality and that sort of thing. And I always say quality is subjective. Have you found there's been times when you're like, you've done a really primo episode, you feel like editing's all dialed in, and then it just didn't get sticky? And you're like, what? But why didn't it get sticky?
Yeah, there has been. There's been a couple that I was really impressed with and proud of and thought they looked really great, and they didn't hit quite in the right way. And what we've learned along the way is that engagement is key. Hitting the algorithm hard. We have a bit of a formula with how we jumpstart our episodes, and that is to get make sure that the partner, whoever we're interviewing. So when we interviewed with you, Shawn, we sent you the list. You got to be on there to accept the collaboration. Make sure you like and engage with your fans, talk with them, banter back and forth, and treat it like it's a bar or at the restaurant. Have a chat with the people that are there to see what you're talking about. And we've found that when our partners accept the collaboration and engage, that's when they hit. You can have the best episode of all time, but if the group of people that are invested in it don't actually invest in it and make that contribution of collaborating and engaging, you slide under the radar in the algorithm. But if you hit it hard and hit it early, usually plays out pretty good.
I've talked to a couple of podcasters about like when you interview someone who's got a good following and a good reach, and you're like, did they share any of your stuff? They're like, no. And I'm like, well, what? What do you mean they didn't collaborate on Instagram or share it on Facebook, share it on LinkedIn, share it on Twitter, that sort of thing? It is a tad frustrating. Yeah. When you were making that move from long form to short form, did you really understand the full blown nature of the algorithm and what you really want to achieve? Because I find a lot of people romance like what they set out to do. Like you could have done another series of 8, dropped a whole bunch of coin and gone, no, this is going to eventually work. Was there a point where you were like, no, I think we just need to pivot this? I hate to say pivot when we talk about the pandemic and everything, but pivot this into what it was without romancing what you'd done?
Yeah, it was hard because I was really attached to the original format, and I still am. I can't wait to do it again. But we needed to build a base. We needed to have people who would actually give a shit if we did a long form. As simple as that. So, we're just creeping up on 10,000 followers on Instagram now. And we knew that the conversations and the best parts of the long form were relevant. It just took 20 minutes for you to get to it. So how do we get to those best parts quickly and greedily, frankly, so when we made that pivot point, I didn't know how the algorithms worked. I didn't know a lot about that. And that's where I'm very lucky again that Kelly, my wife, understands social media, understands and researches and pays attention to, the trends and what Instagram and Facebook are looking for and all that kind of stuff. So she's been a real guiding light on that side of it.
So now you're expanding. I know that you were in Toronto recently. I know that you did a little couple of day trip to Victoria. Is that the goal to start getting outside the Vancouver area and start hitting cities? Have you done, mate? I know that you try to bring a crate on the plane to Toronto, which they wouldn't let you check.
Well, they wouldn't let me put it in the hand luggage, and they said you can put it in the luggage, and it's $110 or whatever
for a milk crate,
for an empty milk crate. And I thought, I bet we can find one in Toronto. So yeah, that's the plan, is certainly to expand and tell the stories of hospitality across the country. Eventually we'd love to take it global, but for right now, we started in our backyard, and I'll be honest, I leaned on a lot of relationships and friends in the industry that I said, trust me. I just need you to trust me. Please sit on a milk crate. And our first day of filming, we had 2 cancellations first thing in the morning, and I was like, oh, maybe this isn't a good idea, but people bought into it and have come along with us. So yeah, we flew out to Toronto on our own dime to see what the market was like. The catalyst for us going, we had always wanted to go, but the catalyst for us to go was the opening of Lunch Lady. Our friends Benedict and Andrea and their crew over at Lunch Lady on Commercial are opening their new spot on Ossington. And at the time, it seemed as though the opening was going to be in early June. So we booked our flights, and then unfortunately, the Lunch Lady herself passed on the way for the opening. So everything got delayed. But at that point, we were sort of pot committed. So we thought, well, we'll just go to Toronto and see how we go. We had maybe 4 friendly interviews lined up with Vancouver ties, and then the rest of it, we just sort of winged it. And I think we got another 5 interviews while we were out there. So yeah, Toronto series coming soon.
Nice. So I know that when you did it with me, you had like three or 4 people with you. When you went to Toronto, did you take everybody with, or was it was just you and the wife?
Just Kelly and I. Yeah. Yeah. It was, it's interesting because, it's great to have our squad that we roll with and we show up with. So Kevin's there, he's our operations director, and he's taking all the notes and putting together the interviews and booking and scheduling everybody. And then Emmeline and Kelly run the cameras and make sure that it's looks good and being produced well, and that the microphones are working. And then for Toronto, it was cost prohibitive to fly the whole squad out. So Kelly and I figured out how do we refine this, bought a bunch of tripods, and we started practicing on a couple of local shoots. And then I said, do we need to fly another person out? She said, I think I can do it. So it took a lot longer to set up, to be candid. When we roll with the squad, we can get in and out pretty quickly. But when it's just Kelly setting up, because I'm useless with all that kind of stuff, I'm just kind of standing there chatting with the subject. Oh, what's your favorite? Blah, 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 doing the pre-interview stuff. So it just gives her some time to set it up. So yeah, it's just the 2 of us, and it worked well, but it's not the ideal scenario.
So when it comes to scaling, we're talking about Toronto, that sort of thing. What's been the hardest thing to scale for you? Because I know in Canada, it's a real pain in the ass to get any sort of sponsorship, because I got friends in the US who have got like TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that, and they just get bank, like whether being paid by the platform or people sending them product and money and everything else. In Canada, it's always been a bit of a struggle, and I've been doing this for 6 years now, podcasting. So like, I know exactly how bad it is. It doesn't matter how good the podcast gets. it's still like a struggle to get sponsorship dollars. How are you going with the scaling of Chef's Favorite, Mates on Crates, then the sponsorship deals?
Yeah, great question. So when we started Chef's Favorite and Mates on Crates, again, it was designed as the marketing arm to our hospitality consulting, with an eye that one day it could generate revenue in its own right. So our fundamental income comes from our hospitality consulting to this day. We have not done any sponsored posts or anything like that. We've had some people start reaching out, which is interesting. There may be an opportunity to do something with them, but I think expanding into Toronto is certainly going to help that. What we're working on now is actually partnering with some local restaurants to help them with their social media and making content for them. So that's kind of where that side of the scaling has gone. But in the big picture, what we're trying to build is a food media company, a brand that tells the stories of hospitality and puts faces behind the names of the restaurants that we love. So on the sponsorship side, I think that Mates on Crates, I don't know if I ever would want it to have a sponsor or brought to you by, but maybe, because you got to pay the team.
Brought to you by Saputo.
Yeah, exactly. BC Dairy, Avalon, talk to me. This seems like a layup. But we'll probably have some more focus on the event side of things, because that's the other part of the business. And what I'm really passionate about is experiential. So I think that for us, we've done a lot of events recently over the last few years where we've broken even. And if a sponsor wanted to help us produce the event that we could make some money to pay everybody, that'd be tops.
Yeah, Avalon, if you're listening, just hit them up. They'll drink chalky milk in the actual ad. That'll be the big 1 liter chalky milk. You're gonna start at the start of the interview, and you're gonna be finished by the end of the interview.
Happy
just a 1 liter Avalon chalky milk.
Hell, you give me cottage cheese and all that. I don't care.
Well, that brings me to another point, because I think from outside looking in, a lot of people would be seeing you as that sort of like social media influencer and that sort of thing. How are you balancing, and you were talking about Kelly earlier, like how are you balancing out the creative side of your business, which it fuels a certain part of you, and especially when you're outside the hospitality industry, like not in the thick of things, and then the business side of things where you'd be going into a meeting talking about an event or a consult or something like that. Because I think we both probably have, actually no, we've definitely agreed on this. We have the exact same fucking ADHD personality, because we need to have a million things going. And I do find it challenging, as well as really, really good for me to have that sort of dichotomy. How do you balance it out personally?
Well, again, I'm lucky that I have a great team and I have a calendar, and I have a team that tries to keep me on the train tracks, because left to my own devices, I might just spin off into oblivion. But Thursdays is filming day, and I know that that's what we're doing. And Monday is admin day, and we have kind of work sessions Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and then I get my creatives in the afternoon. I found what works for me is I'm most focused in the mornings, 9 a.m., then I'll write it till 4 p.m. And then in the afternoons, if I can, I like to go and get a nice long walk in, and whether that's with my team or by myself. And that's where the creative comes in. And so there's a lot of people in my universe that will receive calls from me at like 4:30 in the afternoon. They know exactly what's going on. He's out for his walk and he's all creative. But it's that's my favorite part of the job, is the creative side of it. But also strategically, I like being able to sort of look at a problem and then kind of plot what does it look like at its end goal. I had a great mentor, Philip Ireland, who's in Toronto himself, and he always used to tell, kind of teach me, like, shoot the blue sky version as high and as perfect as you can with no budget, blue sky dream scenario, and then kind of wind it in from there. And if you have that sort of creative philosophy to both the business strategy as well as the creative, you kind of land in a really sweet spot where you've taken it to another level without blowing your budget out. But I think if you start with a concept or an idea that has restraints around it, oh, I can't afford to do this, or I can't you know, you never get to hit that sweet spot in the creative
Mhm.
process. So I try and really work with our team to think about things unencumbered and then shoot it into space as high and as optimistic as it can be, and then we kind of reel it in a little bit and say, okay, what is a realistic scenario?
What's the biggest piece of advice? We talked about this in the green room before I got you on. What's the biggest piece of advice you can give someone who is roughly our age? Because I feel like that 38 to 45-year-old sort of age bracket for people in the industry, they're either like, I'm done with working the floor, I'm done with working the kitchen. What's that one piece of advice that's sort of like outside the pandemic that pushed us to do a lot of crazy
Yeah.
things to get people to understand that you can still be in the industry, still be very entrenched in the industry without necessarily being at a restaurant?
Yeah, I think industry adjacent is a very exciting place to be. You know, I still love getting on the floor and running a room, but if you asked me to do that at the level I was doing it when I was in my 20s, there's no way. Just simply put. But I think that if I was to give somebody advice in that realm, it's what is your super, like if you're the person that makes the best dessert, or if you're the person that makes the best pasta, or if you're the person that makes the best cocktail, explore that niche and try and build on it and expand it. And it doesn't always have to be about you. You know, you can be a part of a larger community and
Mm.
just tell your story. That would kind of be my advice. And the hardest thing, and it's very cliche to say it, but you just got to start. You know, our first few videos didn't have many people watching them, but we just kept putting them up. Um, I think that if you want to, if your skill set is in the industry and you don't have any other skill sets, then look to diversify and complement the current skill set that you have. But like, if you don't know anything about business, start taking a night course. Watch YouTube about business, accounting. Like, look, know your numbers. Again, Philip Ireland, my mentor, know your numbers. He used to grill me on my numbers, and to the point where he still, to this day, will say to me, what's the difference between gross profit and net profit? And I'll just like go, oh, no, not again. No. So yeah, I think augmenting your skill set and building supporting skills around it is key.
With social media being so important in that sort of like adjacent, for a lot of people, they're like, well, I don't want to put myself out there in social media. What's your, well, I'm just going to keep asking your advice. What's your advice for, you obviously are a charismatic guy, you work front of house, but there's a lot of chefs out there that, as you said, like slightly awkward, quiet sort of guy, but like could be making the best pasta. What's your best thing to get over that hump of like looking for like gratification in social media?
Don't look
I
for
went deep. I
gratification.
went deep on that one.
Yeah, you did. You did. I wouldn't look for gratification on social media because it's not there. um, that's a great question. I think it's just at the end of the day, you got to be able to laugh at yourself.
Hmm.
You know, like don't take yourself too seriously. We're not performing brain surgery over here. We're serving plates. We're putting drinks in people's hands and trying to throw a party and a good time. So I think that, you know, honor your craft, honor what you're good at, own your space, but also don't be afraid to make a mistake and look a little bit foolish. You know, kind of dumb shit I've done with mates on crates and all the stuff that we do. I think that's the key, is that you don't be too proud. Just
Mm.
let it rip.
Yeah, there's a chef on Instagram. I think it's called Sad Pappy, and he's an awesome chef, but he is very like very melancholy. But he's lent into it, and I really would love to
Yeah.
know in real life if he really is that melancholy all the time. But he just does voiceovers, and that's his thing. But it's stuck. But you can imagine a young chef who wants to sort of like get his name out there. I'm like, just be yourself. Don't try and
Yeah.
be anybody else.
Yeah.
Like, it's way easier being yourself.
Yeah, it's yeah, be yourself because everybody else is taken.
Yeah.
I know. I think if you're a bit of a weird dude, lean into it. You know, I'm a bit of a weird dude. You know,
You have
don't.
to be in the industry.
Yeah, you do. You do. There's a special kind of human that can work in the hospitality industry, and I think that people shouldn't be shy about telling their stories, and yeah, just be okay with failing. Be okay with not looking like the cool guy in the room always. Sometimes you just got to be you, and I don't know.
Yeah, be the big 6'5" scary Australian.
That's right.
So we actually talked about this on the phone the other day. Like 2025 seems to be really, really like going guns a blazing for you. What's the future looking like for Chef's Favorite, Mates on Crates, that sort of thing? James Grass.
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, Toronto series for Mates on Crates comes out. I believe we're releasing it next week. Funny story, the crate wasn't allowed on the plane, so we had to find a different colored crate when we went to Toronto. Turns out no yellow crates that we could find, so we have a blue crate making its debut in the Toronto edition. So you'll always know if we're in Toronto with the blue crate. That'll be the clue.
There's that new swag coming out too, just the Toronto limited edition Toronto series with the blue crate.
You know what? Yeah, I might have to get you on the team here, Shawn, because that's a great freaking idea. We will be revamping our merch line. We've been working hard on that. The key is nailing the supply chain for us on the merch. So we'd love to be able to get back to doing that. We'll do some collabs and limited releases with some of the shirts and some of our favorite personalities around the city. We're pushing ourselves out of Vancouver. I mean, obviously this is home and this is where we'll be based, but we want to start taking the show on the road. We'll be doing a Victoria series in the fall. If the Toronto release goes well, as we hope it will. We were really well received in Toronto for people that didn't know who the hell we were. They were so hospitable. They were so welcoming and so like willing to just jump in and be a part of it, which was really special. So if our audience enjoys the Toronto series, then I'd love to be able to go out to Toronto, film a slate every month or so and keep that train chugging along. I'd love to have a podcast, perhaps. We'll see. Yeah, lots of good stuff. The big one for us as well, and actually, our boy Lewis Hart put me onto this one. We've been working on a map concept for our website. So we've got this amazing set of data from all these qualified opinions, and we're building out our favorites map on an app called Step. And so we're going to be producing that and hopefully adding that to our website soon enough.
Nice.
The newsletters are going nuts. We've got a great guy. Our newsletter, his name's Hogan Short, and he's our global roaming reporter. And he's a digital nomad, and he writes newsletters for a bunch of different companies around the world. And he used to write for Dish back in the day. And he called me up and he said, "Hey, loving what you're doing. I'm in a different city every couple of weeks. I'd love to write some, of my experiences at different restaurants." I said, "Brother, go for it." It's something that I'd always wanted, was to have a global presence. So Hogan's crushing it. He just wrote a great article on the pizza scene in Toronto and dropped another one recently about Barcelona. So we're starting to talk about international places. And then Holiday Club coming back this Christmas, which for those in the know was an absolute blast last year, and we'll be doing it again.
So you can't just drop it like that. What's Holiday Club for everybody listening?
So Holiday Club was a concept that we debuted last year, and it was a pop-up speakeasy meets supper club. And we essentially opened a restaurant for 25 days, which is the best and worst idea I've ever had. But we had a great, I just put together a squad of gangsters that I thought could put together an amazing world-class hospitality experience in a Christmas setting. And we designed it in such a way that people could book it out for their corporate Christmas parties. And then we also had a membership component where we had a la carte dinner each night. So on our squad last year, we had the crew from Chipito. They closed their pop-up in the alley. And I pulled them aside at their wrap party, which is probably the wrong thing to do. But I got Tara, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing for Christmas?" And we were a couple of shots in. She said, "I have no idea." And I said, "Well, why don't you bring all your gear and run the bar for this Holiday Club concept?" And she said yes, and I held her to it. And I don't know if she regrets it, but her and her partner Eric are absolute G's. They put together an incredible cocktail list and an amazing Christmas experience for us there. On the kitchen side, we had our other Aussie boy, Jacob Kent, as our chef in residence. And he brought on Devin and Lucas, who have now opened near Otondo. So I had the Aussie meat guy and the local superstar veggie boys come together and make these incredible meals for our guests through our holiday club. DJ Joe Longacre was playing. We had live music. It was really special. I had a great young guy by the name of Johan Hart who was running the front of house. We had Santa show up each night. We had a photo booth, like not a photo booth, but a photo studio that my wife curated. She owns a photography business, so she put that together. It was absolute hoot. And anyways, we're going to do it again this year, whether it's a good idea or not. I don't care. We're in. My favorite night of that whole time was we did hospitality nights on Mondays. And it's given me some really cool ideas for this year. So we're going to be primarily focused on corporate events, lunches, company lunches for like 40 or company Christmas parties for up to 100. But we're going to be saving some nights for Chef's favorite exclusive events. And what we'll be doing is inviting people like you, Shawn, to come and do a pop-up on the bar. And then we'll have surprise chefs come in each night. So we'll have like our in-house chef that is there every day. And then we're going to invite the hospitality community to come in and pop up. But I've got this great story from last year. So our second hospitality night is going absolutely gangbusters. The place is packed. There's people from restaurants all over the city. Kabir was running the bar from Zarak. So he was doing a pop-up on the bar. And I had Jacob and Devin and Lucas in the kitchen. And then I got a call from Lucas Syme from Autostrada the day before. And he's like, hey, man, I love what you're doing. Do you reckon I could just show up with like, I don't know, 10 orders of ravioli and just like hand them out? Like, I just think it's really cool and I'd love to contribute. I was like, you kidding me? Yeah, let's do it. So sure enough, like 9:30, the place is packed. Like, everyone's having a great time. And Lucas walks in this like pristine white business shirt, tucked in, like apron on, ready to go. Just walks in with this tray of raviolis with short rib and scallops. And just like, I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, Lucas Syme, Autostrada. And then he's like, who wants ravioli? And just like, he sold 10 orders of ravioli, like lightning fast. And then he was gone. Like, he was there for half an hour. It was like the best thing. Final night, same thing. Benedict Lim came through with these taro chip nachos that were just unbelievable and just popped up for like an hour and then left. So we're going to be doing more of that for Holiday Club this year.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So we've come to the end of the podcast where I asked the 5 deep podcast questions.
Oh dear.
It gets deep. So you ready?
I'm ready.
What is the one lesson or experience that has shaped your perspective the most, and how do you carry that forward in your life?
My first day at the Vancouver club, there was a guy who was leaving. And he said, shut your mouth and do your job. And it was very powerful. And I thought, I don't know that that's exactly what I would believe. But what he meant by that was like, listen to the people that are around you, trust them and do your job and focus on that. And then the other piece of advice that I got that I carry with me to this day is know your numbers. Don't ask me the difference between net profit and gross profit.
I always got told, watch the cents, the dollars look after themselves.
There you go. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
If you could leave one lasting message or piece of advice, one lasting message or piece of wisdom for the world, what would it be and why?
Work hard and be nice to people. Don't take yourself too seriously. The journey is more fun than the destination. Like, we're in the growth phase of Chef's Favorite, and there's some really hard days. And I say to my team, just remember, this is the good old days. This is the funnest it'll ever be.
Wow. Looking back on your journey, what is something you wish you had understood earlier in your life?
Oh. Back on my journey. That is a really good question.
I told you they were deep.
I just got really introspective. Make time for family.
Nice. I'm working on that now.
Yeah.
How do you define success, and has your definition of it changed over time?
Yeah, so success has changed, the definition of it. I thought that the definition of success was, a fancy car and a house and money and all that sort of stuff. I think that the definition of success for me is, do I love what I do? Do I wake up in the morning and I'm jacked up to do it? Um, I've always been a bit of a free thinker in the sense of like, if I'm having a good time, then I'll do well at whatever I'm doing. So I think my definition of success is being around people that I want to be around, doing something that I love, and connecting people. That's my favorite thing, is connecting people, good people. We have a lot of conversations in the hospitality business. I probably talk to 10 to 15 hospitality people a day. And I'm always hearing somebody's needing this or somebody's needing that. My favorite thing is to connect people. That's the definition of success for me, is to be able to help that.
What do you hope your legacy will be, and what steps are you taking to build it?
Wow. I just want to. What my legacy would be is that Chef's Favorite is known for telling stories of hospitality. I love the industry. People pour their hearts and souls into it. People work really, really hard for little to no reward, and I think that it's important that restaurateurs find other revenue streams. It's not purely based on how much food and beverage they sell. I think that the margins are so slim, you have to find other ways to maximize your brand. And so if we can help to educate that and create those opportunities for the industry, I would love that. And then at another legacy level, just to get on my pulpit while I'm on your show, I think that BC and Vancouver has the most treacherous hospitality conditions in North America for operators. People often say, why don't you own your own restaurant or bar? And I say, what are you, nuts? Permitting is a massive issue. The fact that it'll take 6 to 8 months to get permitting done that really should only take a week or two is crazy. And those 6 or 8 months waiting, most venues are paying rent on that, and they're just drowning themselves before they even had a chance to take a crack at it. The city spent millions of dollars on bringing Michelin to town, but the restaurants that are in that category need to be given a fighting chance. We've got all the talent in the world in Vancouver. We've got all of the produce that you could ever want to make the best food and the best wine. It's all here, but we need to get some fundamental change at the government levels around permitting, insurance, the BCLDB. I know that one's that's a hot button topic for a lot of the industry. So, imagine if we could fix just one of those things. How much of a game changer would be for the industry? That would be a part of the legacy that I'd love to leave. There's my rant.
Well, I think the thing is that like the general consumer, if one thing gets changed, it's gonna give us a 0.5% to a 1% up. Whereas the consumer thinks, oh, you've got this, so you're gonna be super successful now. I'm like, well, it's incremental. It's bit by bit by bit. Okay, well, let's lighten it up, because that was very introspective, and I appreciate you being as raw as you are, because that's something that I always throw people off. That's why I don't do pre-interviews and I don't send questions. And like I've had big names go, oh, I need to see the questions before you say. I'm like, no, we're going to be raw. Like, you're going to answer it the way you would answer it regardless if you knew the question. What's your favorite classic cocktail?
I don't know if it's a classic cocktail, but it's a New York sour.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Just a little red wine there.
Yeah, I love it. I love a New York sour.
Oh, it's good to know.
Yeah.
And favorite place to visit?
In the world?
Yep.
Like a restaurant or just like a city?
Just wherever you feel like you're that perfect zen moment.
Oh, Noosa, Sunshine Coast, Queensland, Australia. Straight at it.
Come on, man. That's where I used to surf.
Hey, it's just it's like, you know what? Don't visit it. You wouldn't like it. People at home, you wouldn't like it.
Go to the Gold Coast.
You'll like that. Great. Yeah. Great.
Well, man, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm glad that your first podcast was with me. That's a bit of an honor, because I have, even before we chatted, like in Vancouver, and you reached out, like I was a massive follower of you. So like, I just love seeing that creative side of things being able to shift and realign to be something, as you said, hospitality adjacent. And you've just done a great job. I love your stuff.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And hey, thank you for everything that you put into the Victoria hospitality community, because when we went and visited, we were name dropping you like crazy. And everybody was like, Shawn Soole, yeah, that's my guy. So we got treated like freaking royalty in Victoria. And I love you for that. Thank you.
I love my town, and I love my town a lot. So
Well,
I appreciate it.
I want to put this on record. Victoria is the most underrated hospitality scene in the country.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've been trying to tell people that for like 15 years.
Let's go. Let's go, baby. I'm here for it.
Hey, man. Well, I'll chat to you really soon. Really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot, my man.
Thanks for having me. That was an
Cheers.
absolute